Welcome to the Great British Pinball Podcast, and here are your hosts Scott Rundell and Neil McRae.
Welcome folks, Neil McRae here. This is part 1 of 2 of the Great British Pinball Podcast version episode 9. We did a guest segment, it ran on for a lot of time, so we split the episode into 2 halves. This is the first half, and the second half is available on your podcaster and on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And here we go. Episode 9, part 1.
Welcome, everybody, to the glory that is the Great British Pinball Podcast. Actually, for the first time, we're hoping that we have a podcast where my platform isn't echoing, doesn't leap around the place, doesn't lag. So what you're actually hearing, I can't excuse myself, it's me, the real me, with my dreary Scottish accent. There's no technicalities that are screwing it up. Anyway, welcome to episode 9, which I still find shocking that we got past the pilot episode. Yeah. We didn't do a Star Trek episode. Anyway, I am Neil McRae. I'm joined, as always, by my partner in crime.
Thanks very much, Neil. But how you doing, man? Okay?
Mate, it's been this year has just felt like I have paddled and literally moved a centimetre. It's
only
busy.
February.
I know, mate. And next week I'm in Spain all week because we've got our big Mobile World Congress. It's a big kind of telco show. I really don't enjoy it. It's too busy. You're in Barcelona, which it's something like 150,000 people invade Barcelona for a week. It can't cope with it. And work's just been crazy. And then we've had the club, which I'll talk a little bit about later. It's just been mental. But I've actually played some pinball at home for the first time in ages, which is good. And you know, I'm kind of thankful that I have had the opportunity to. So I'll just run through actually for the listeners and the viewers on YouTube. So we are on YouTube, so you can see us, but we're not really a video podcast. We're an audio podcast. So we're going to do our usual kind of sections. What's new? We'll cover some of the hot topics or the things that we think are hot topics. We've then got a departure. We finally got guests on the show.
We branched out, everyone.
Yeah. So there's going to be even more of us. It's going to make the podcast probably a bit longer than most people will like, but unfortunately that's life. You'll just have to listen to us. It is actually an interesting section though, so bear with us on that. But we've got a section on, there's a bunch of us from the UK going to Texas Pinball Festival. So we got a few of the folks that are going on. And actually, the focus was talking about Texas Pinball. We actually talked about a lot of other stuff, which is quite cool, I thought. Well, you let us know if you thought it was. I want to cover a little bit about PAPA, the Professional Amateur Pinball Association, which is back and alive and kicking. A little bit about a charity pinball event happening at Medway Pinball in Kent. Scott's going to give us an update to some of the spannering that he's been doing and his new love of Twilight Zone as a pin. We'll have a chat about what junk that we've bought and sold, any games we've bought and sold. Do a little bit on some good news on the club front, but also I wanted to thank a few folks who've been helping us out. And we're also going to talk a bit about Princess Bride and a little bit about Jaws and Godzilla and some challenges. So, Scott, what's your favourite hot topic of pinball right now?
Well, that's a good one. I think, to be honest with you, I was keenly interested to speak to the guys off camera, as it were, about Jaws and the recent ball-eating debacle and how someone else has tackled it around a mod. And I think it goes into that, you know, it was interesting to see their viewpoint, at least, on what they perceive as, I suppose, a mod which isn't intrusive versus one which is, and why that's, you know, for or against based on their opinion. And I didn't feel people were going to feel that strongly against having a game that changed I suppose, arguably the geometry of the game, but it does seem to be a really big thing, a real big, hot, contentious issue for people. So what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, I mean, I was kind of with kind of, I think, Paul's view, which is mods are there to kind of enhance what's already been put down by the designer. Unless there's like unless it's like a technical flaw where, so the obvious mod is the Theatre Magic boards that you change what are they called? I forget the name of them.
The Eddie boards?
Yeah, and they're there to fix a crap board. So as a
Sure.
mod, that makes sense to me. But there's a bunch of guys that are adding ramps to TNA. They're adding a pop-up thing to Bond. There's this the most hideous one that to me is the shark swallow mode, which isn't really the shark swallowing. It's the shark literally getting gobbed in the mouth with a ball. It's like almost someone like chucked it, and then it appears, changing the game entirely.
Mechanically, right, what the guy has achieved by not creating any permanent change to the playfield is very talented.
Yeah.
To create that like fast fuck system, it's no small feat to kind of like go in there and go, right, how can I make this work? How can I achieve what people are demanding, which is some sort of ball swallow? And I get that it's probably not as elegant as people would want it to be, but I still admire the technical feat that he's achieved by doing it. I think like that's impressive. Personally.
I think I can't remember whose line it is, but I think it's Asimov's line. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
No, that was like that came from Jurassic Park, I think.
Was it?
Where they got the what's his
but
name?
Didn't
Goes, they didn't stop to think if they could, they should, or something like that.
No, but I think they got that from somewhere else, though. I don't think it's original to Jurassic Park.
I remember it being famous from Jurassic Park. That's all.
You're right. I'm pretty sure it's an Asimov line. I might be wrong on that, so I'm sure someone will point out.
I know what you're saying, but I mean, the problem is the demand was there for it, right?
Oh, absolutely. And the same with the Bond thing, right? The scoop part of Bond. Let's face it, it's not the best part of the game.
No.
I get why people wanted to do something about it. I think the answer is the wrong answer, though, because Bond's quite a return to flipper game, and they've made it even more massively return to flipper.
Let's go back to your point about how making a game better. What's your view then on Ghostbusters when they started adding in that central kind of like not an up post? What do you call it? Like a central post?
It's like a down post. It was like a. So the name of them, the kind of guy that I think first started using them was Steve Kirk on 9-Ball and Meteor. It's called a Kirk post.
Okay.
And it's kind of you kind of stick it in the middle. And actually on his games I've got I've got Stars here, which is a Steve Kirk game. Brilliant old 80s game, amazing old 80s game. If you haven't played one, you need to find one. It's brutal, but it's glorious. He designed this. He put it in, I think, just about all the games that he made. Meteor, 9-Ball, a couple of others.
Yeah.
And it works really well in that scenario, but you got to learn to trust it now. So to avoid drill. I mean, you could drill into the Ghostbusters playfield. Spider-Man's got it as well. If you've ever had a Spider-Man, it's got a central post, and you can drill into you can drill it in and put one in if you want. So I can't remember. I think it might be Mezzel that did this, but they came up with this cool plastic that so you didn't have to drill in. It just kind of stretched out.
That's it.
And then went down. And look, I played a Ghostbusters with that on it. Ghostbusters for me, I played it in Chief Coffee when it came out, and a few places, and I thought, I've got to get one of these. And I finally got a premium in the second run. It took forever for them to arrive because still removing factory and blah blah blah. This was before I really started to think about how I played. I just the ball just hit the flipper. I just whacked it and hoped for the best. But then with I noticed over time that I played Ghostbusters less and less because that flipper gap in the bit at the top where the ball just literally rolled down the middle. There's nothing you could ever do about it. It just irritated the hell out of me. So when I played one with this thing, and I thought, this might be good, and look, it helped a little bit, but it was still clunky. You still had a lot of straight down the middle stuff, even though that was there, because
Sure.
it would bounce off in a way that just wasn't a helpful
Natural.
bounce.
Yeah, it wasn't feeding
designed.
back to a flipper, was it? It was
Yeah,
there was a chance of
and
it still good training.
and and for that post to work well, there's going to be a decent amount of momentum on the ball. And if you look at Steve Kirk's games, you know, you choose to use that middle post in the shots that you make, and he's done the geometry. So the horseshoe and 9-ball, where you fire it, it's designed for you to hit off the post and up, right? You know, and whereas Ghostbusters, it's kind of been chucked in as an afterthought. Again, not a terrible thing, but largely not the same. And actually,
okay. So in a nutshell, you wouldn't say you're adverse to like people trying to create fixes to geometry, but where you feel it's not needed, you're just not a fan of it.
No, so in the Ghostbusters scenario, I don't think that so here's the issue, right? If they'd done that Ghostbusters mod and it made a massive difference to the game, I'd say yeah, right? But it didn't.
Right.
And I think, and this is my thing, I think most of the mods that you get like this, and I think that the same is true for the 007 mod, they don't change enough of the game to really make the game change. So, and all you end up is with a different frustration, right?
Okay.
So, you know, my sense on it is I want to stick to the designer, but also, look, you know, I mean, the only good thing I think that comes out of these things is, you know, Stern's probably looking at it thinking, crikey, we must have got that bad enough that they sold hundreds of that mod for Bond, you know, and it's not a cheap mod. It's like about, I want to say, 400 quid.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
So when you look at it through that lens, you know, they've done something that's right. But I go back to Ghostbusters. I didn't play mine for like about a month, and then they finally came out with the final version of code. I thought, oh yes, awesome. Put the code on, and the code was much better, but it didn't change the geometry, and it didn't change the game. And I basically decided there and then, I did a stream playing the latest code, which is on YouTube. I decided at the end of that stream, I'm selling this game. It just doesn't do it for me. It's flawed basically,
Sure.
which is frustrating because the art is awesome.
Oh yeah, everything else is on point, right? Music, call outs,
the music, the call outs, everything. You know, you get the mode. This man has no dick. I just fucking made me laugh every time I heard it. Right? They really nailed it on everything else. Just a shame about one thing. And we're talking about move the flippers in half an inch each, and you've made that game a million times better.
I wonder, do you think they'll ever do a vault of it and then fix that? I'm worried about licensing implications, I suppose.
So there's a kind of a bit of a scandal with the designer of that game, John Trudeau, who was locked up for child pornography or something.
Oh, really? Okay.
And Stern, he was still working, he was an employee of Stern at the time. He got fired, obviously, went to jail. I think he's out now. But I think because of that, I would be surprised if Ghostbusters ever came back in that form. Would they do a remake with the LCD and stuff? Absolutely. And if the rumours around Metallica are true, there's a new Metallica coming completely redesigned.
Yeah, you're right. That's coming up, isn't it? Yeah.
If that's true, then, and Ghostbusters, I reckon, must have also outsold Metallica 2-1. Why wouldn't they do Ghostbusters? It's a theme that's well loved. And you know, give it the game that it deserves, because I think right now it's not a terrible game, but it's not what it should be for that IP in my view.
Right.
And they can add stuff to it now. You know, you've got the last Ghostbusters movie, which actually I thought was pretty good. I was kind of dreading.
It's all right. Nice homage at the end as well, where obviously, you know, one of the actors has died. They put him in quite tastefully, I thought.
They did a great job of closing that off. I really, which I actually met. God, what's the guy's name? Ernie. God damn it! The Ernie Hudson, is it?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I met him actually thanks to Stern. I'll post the picture of me and him on the. I'm pretty sure it's Ernie Hudson. Shows how well a fan I was of him, basically. But he is the Ghostbuster that they hired, the black guy. Ernie Hudson, this guy.
Oh, he's the one that done all the call-outs, right, as well,
Yeah, he did
for
all the call-outs. So
the pinball
Stern
machine.
actually had him. Stern actually had him at the Stern 30th party, where they launched Batman. He was there, him and Zombie Yeti, and they were signing stuff. I got a bunch of great signs.
Because these call-outs are really good, actually.
Oh, they're
Sometimes
awesome,
you know what
but
it's like when you get an actor in and they do call-outs. You're like, you do act, right? So just, the lines come across so stale.
I mean, the other thing is with Ernie. I mean, he's been in a lot of stuff, Congo and other stuff, right? And I've met a lot. You know, I'm one of those guys that if I meet someone that gives me a kind of a hero vibe, I want to meet them, right? I've met loads of people. I met firefighters from 9/11. I met Apollo astronauts. I met all these kind of wacky people, and I met a lot of actors that played great roles. And Ernie was like the best actor I ever met. I spent like 10 minutes chatting to him,
Nice.
and he was just superb to talk to. You get some of these guys that won't even look at you when you're getting your photo taken with them, and actually most of them had just been in the end and go away saying never meet your heroes. But you know, he was awesome. Anyway, we'll move on from that. But I mean, my take is I was very much with Paul, which I think his mind was, you know, mods are there to enhance, not to change. And occasionally, look, I mean, this is the thing, right? What's a mod? So if I point to Quicksilver, which is in my home right now, one of my favorite games of all time, and this is true for 9-ball as well. There's a guy called Seymour Slowcar on Pinside who modded the code to fix bugs. And you know, if you're a purist, you'd say, no, don't do that. I want the bugs, but of course you don't, right?
No.
So is the fact
there's some annoying bugs in Bram Stoker's Dracula, which I wish people would address, but they haven't.
Yeah, and I think there is. I remember there was partly a reason why that's not happening is to do with licensing. There was a guy who was working on it. Stopped there. That's a story for another day. But the thing about, you know, would you and it goes back to what you were saying. Would you put a mod in to fix a kind of a design bug? And a great example of that is James Bond, the loop. There's a bit of plastic so you keep the ball low so it triggers the opto. You know, is that a mod? Is that a fix? Is it changing?
Yeah.
In my mind,
I'll tell you one thing I do like, right? If we park all of like for and against mods based on like, you know, whether they benefit or not and this, that and the other. What I do like about pinball, unlike the arcade scene, is that modders are pretty much accepted in one form or another.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And in some places, in most cases actually, they're celebrated. Like we won't touch on this too long because obviously we've mentioned you know, Davey, and we go quite into detail around the work he done around the Tokyo Neo sign for Godzilla. Yeah. But my point being is that it's celebrated and it's promoted, and I feel like that's a really nice thing about pinball. Like in the arcade world, you try and do anything other than leave it, even if it's completely delaminated and the cabinet's falling apart. They even frown upon you restoring it because it loses its intrinsic value.
Oh, absolutely. It's like when you put an LCD into a TRT.
Yeah.
Like,
away from a cathode ray tube. Yeah.
And it's like, it's kind of like, I mean, I get where they're coming at, but CRTs are just so hard to maintain now.
Impossible, especially in our country. I mean, there's a couple of few people I know that can restore Wellers, and it's like, would I want it either? It's heavy, and don't get me wrong, I love the pixel accuracy that you get from it, but it's like, if I was owning and operating an arcade amusement center, I would just put LCDs in.
Yeah,
you're not going to sit there and maintain
I mentioned
those.
Riverside on the last place. They've got tons of old arcade games, and the screens on some of them have got that kind of brown, like burned out, and then you know, you still play the game, but the quality of it, like when you're used to kind of Fortnite in 4K at 120 frames, you know, you just think, really?
High definition rendering, but, you know, you've got none of that there.
Exactly. Then you get into like, so my Quicksilver, you know, I've just actually big shout out to both Cruiseman and Keith from New Forest Pins who swapped the playfield for me. Did a stellar job, and that instead of bulb holders and bulbs, I've got those new LED they kind of screw on, or I forget what they're called, Mojo things. Or no, it's not Mojo.
I know the ones you're on about. The guy in Australia makes them, right?
There's a
Is that the
few
one you're on
guys.
about?
The ones I got were from the US, I think,
Oh,
but
okay, but I
they're
know the ones you're on
literally
about.
like
It's like
literally like an
SMDs on
LED
a
on
socket.
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
on a flat bit of card, and and it just makes you just put them in, you forget about it. You don't have to worry about them ever again, right?
Well, exactly, because
And
they're pretty. Hopefully, I mean, like, it sounds horrible, but they'll probably outlast you.
yeah, well, definitely me, man. I'm like 5 years and I'm checking out. No, seriously, and Martin will get my medieval madness.
Love it.
Long story on that one. But look, on Quicksilver, they're all LEDs, and there's no doubt it enhances the game in my view. People say, "Oh, keep the," in fact, and actually, no, Martin, what's his name? It's got in my head. Strobe. He's like a real. Oh no LEDs, no color DMD. Keep it orange. Keep it dull
Oh,
and
wow.
dim.
Okay.
I'm
Pure
like, what?
purist. Yeah.
I just it just doesn't make sense to me. Oh, okay. There's a flip side. And actually, Mike Parkins mentioned it to me. He was at Alan Adair's last night, and he's got an original Cactus Canyon, and Alan's got the remake.
Sure.
And he said to me, I needed sunglasses. It gave me a sore head.
Do you know what? That was one of the reasons why I got rid of my Cactus Canyon. I'm not even being funny, but the bloody flashes around the gunfight were so bright that I was getting a bloody migraine every time gunfight was hit.
You can turn them down.
I couldn't find the option. I think I got so look, the cat's out of the bag. I got rid of the game. I was like, it's gone. It's like,
well, let's go back. Let's go back to
yeah.
that later on, right? But yeah, I mean, look, I think it's all about your own personal taste, but
sure.
There's a great thread on Pinside I'd encourage everyone to read, which is I can't remember what they call it, but it's like it's a list of basically people who've bought games and then spent the first 5 hours removing crap mods, usually some sort of LED puke that they've put on it.
Do you know what? There's some things I don't like doing, and I'll always stick to this. GI, for the love of God, why are people colouring it?
Yeah, 100%.
Don't colour your GI. It looks 100% trash.
Agree.
Like, there's some videos out there, or even like some people go on Pinball Enthusiast and they go, "Look at my Judge Dredd," and I'm like, I can't. There's blues, there's reds, there's greens, it's all over the joint.
I have to say, I did that. I kind of did that thinking it would be cool on one of my games. I think it was Next Gen, and then I backed it out because I looked at a photo of someone else. I was like, my God, that looks so clean. I mean, I'll be honest, I try and avoid any color LEDs unless there's a really specific
I'll color match if I want to for the inserts. Like, I think your one is a good example, right? So I've done 3 Theatre of Magics, as you know, last year. Yeah. Yours being one of them, and yours was the only one I'd say where we did color match on inserts, and yours look way more vibrant. I went with cool white, and the other one I built was warm white, which is like incandescent white, because he wanted it close to kind of incandescent. Why you want that piss orange glow is beyond me. But anyway, like, look, it's like, the point being is that out of the 3, I think my wife said I like Neil's more, even though, like, ours is ours, and she loves ours. She liked yours more because the colors punched more. On the inserts, I'm all for kind of color matching. I think when you can get more vibrancy out of the orange or out of the red, it makes absolute sense. But the GI, frosted white.
Yeah,
that's it.
Couldn't agree more, mate. I couldn't agree more. Okay, let's. So look, I think we'll get to the mod section a bit later on, but obviously the other big topic. So Jaws ball swallow for me, I wouldn't even go near it with a 10-foot barge pole. It's a big no-no from me. Again, fair play to the guy for designing and making it work. But
that's the beauty of a mod, isn't it? You don't have to have it.
Exactly. I mean that and it is personal choice, but I kind of always remember when I can't remember. I was at high school or was it later where you had people driving around what they called Chavaliers because the mods on the cars were so bad. The mods on the cars were so bad that they had lights everywhere, and one guy even had one. He'd kind of put a wrap on it that was Burberry. It's just absolutely terrible. It's terrible. Kind of what's tasteful, right? And not everyone agrees with everything, but that's a great thing. As you say, they're optional. I mean, the other big topic, I think, Princess Bride.
Yes, the Multimorphic game.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I watched a few of the videos. I haven't watched anything live yet. I'm not sure they've released anything live yet, but
I thought they did a very Guns N' Roses style trailer,
yes,
if you know what I mean.
especially with a girl getting excited.
Yeah, good. Oh, so, and I wondered sometimes, do you think she was playing it, or they cut someone else in front because it looked like she was playing a little too well, or the game was really easy?
Yeah, I don't know. I have a feeling I know that lady or that woman. The
Okay.
face is. I think she's from the pinball community, but I couldn't.
Okay.
I
I don't know
I
if they
meant to
just
have
pulled an
another
actor
look
off
at
the
it.
street because I thought there's no way that she could be playing that well.
Yeah, I meant to have another look at it, but look, I mean, Princess Bride. Actually, I'm going to confess, I have never seen that movie.
I haven't watched it either. I'm not
Nah,
gonna lie. But
so
I don't know. It looks all right, and it looks of that '80s fantasy era. But I was like, I don't know. When I was listening to the call outs and I was listening to the scenes, I was like, it just feels a bit boring. I was like, I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I didn't want to put anything negative on the forum because there was a post about it, and they're like, oh, I'm really glad it's Multimorphic, and I felt like saying, actually, and I'm going to say it now, which is just as rude, I suppose. I'm pretty glad Multimorphic got that terrible license because it's a terrible license for a terrible manufacturer. It's what it is. They don't seem to make good titles, and everything just seems across as just a little bit amateur. If I'm
yeah,
honest.
I mean, I don't know. So you're right in that they haven't had great titles, but when I've looked at the engineering of their games, it looks very impressive to me. All
right, I'll take it back. Yeah, I'll give you that. The mechanics, especially around the magnet going up the waterfall, absolutely perfect. It's good. But look, I can't get my head around it, and it might just be, again, it's kind of like we were arguing about purists going with incandescence. The same thing with pinball. It looks like a virtual cabinet. It feels like a virtual cabinet. I'm never going to have one in my collection.
Yeah,
I can't pay that kind of money for something that looks like a halfway between a virtual cab and a physical machine.
Yeah, I mean, Princess Bride is supposed to be I think it's a bit of a comedy, a bit of a kind of spoof-like movie. It's got one. I mean, in terms of Multimorphic, I've met Jerry. He's passionate about what he does, and I've played all of the Multimorphic games and never walked away thinking I'm buying one tomorrow, right? Whereas, I played Elton John, and I love JGP because they don't look after their customers. But I'm really annoyed that I can't buy that game because it's great. But I know the minute I buy it, I'll get it at home. I'll have some shit show of a story with it, and I won't get the support, right?
Yeah,
but
probably.
I really want to own that game because I think it's a great game. Whereas,
but on the second-hand market after it's probably bedded out.
That's my plan.
Yeah.
But they've got in the Princess Bride, they've got one of my favorite actors, a guy called Wallace Shawn, and he's kind of bald guy, a little bit small. He's one of these. He's in a load of stuff, more for his voice, but he also played. I'm a Star Trek fan, so he played the Grand Nagus, which is the Ferengi leader.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah,
he's
yeah.
Freaking hilarious.
I should have remembered that when you said Grand Nagus. Grand Nagus, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
he's freaking hilarious in it, and I kind of like him. So I am planning. Because it looks like it's a bit of a kids movie as well. Am I right in saying that? I don't know.
I imagine it's aimed at like general audience, right? It's probably like a PG or something.
So I'm going to try and convince my granddaughter to watch it with me over the weekend. It's actually, I mean, it's 96% Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, not often you get that sort of score from there. It
struck me as a cult classic, but maybe it's not. Then I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably get lambasted for being.
Yeah, I know. So I am normally a massive film buff. I'm not going to lie. I've watched a lot of movies in my life, but that one is alluded.
I'll probably find halfway through. Oh, I've watched this. I just didn't know it was. I missed the start of it or something like that. I do that with a lot of films. But look, I watched the show. And, I mean, just a couple of things. One, Colin McAlpine, a good friend of mine. Actually, he actually came here a couple of years ago to play pinball. It was a bizarre thing. He was in Holland on work, and we were running a tournament streaming. And he's like, Neil, I'm in Amsterdam. I was like, mate, jump on a plane. I'm like 20 minutes from Heathrow. So like 2 hours later, he turns up, which is devotion to pinball. But
definitely,
and he's done the rules. Colin's an epic, great friend of mine, really good guy. I think the rules will be cool. I'm looking forward to playing it at TPF. So, but I'm with you. I suspect, and my prediction is, I'm not going to want to buy that game.
You're not going to, Neil, get yourself past that weird glass playfield or acrylic playfield.
It is, and it definitely, the way the ball rolls on that thing.
Yeah, it sounds different. Do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of people that put playfield protectors on their pinball machine.
Yeah.
I had one on my BSD. I spent 200 quid on it. I ripped it off. I was like, this is rubbish. I don't know why anyone plays with that on.
I bought a Stargazer and he didn't say I had a playfield protector when it arrived, and I had one. I was like, oh, and I thought it was Mylar on. And I thought, oh, I'm screwed here. I'm gonna have to get a new playfield and get the whole thing swapped out. Actually, it was he'd done a home brew, and he bought the rolls of stuff and cut it out himself, and it was done so badly, a little bit of hairdryer on it, and it just came off easily. I was like, thank God. And underneath it was beautiful. So yeah, I'm not a fan of them either. Same with those hard tops.
Yeah,
I'm going to say something very controversial that at least my friend Paul M. Fresh on the forum is probably going to write to me and complain, but hard tops are junk. I'm sorry.
They're okay, but I think the problem is they don't align right sometimes. They just look a little off. If you can make it align properly, I'd be like, okay, it's better than nothing. But
I'm super unconvinced about them. I've seen so many of them, played them. I played the worst Flash Gordon ever. Had a hard top on it.
I got admit, I'd rather go through the effort of having one restored, like an original playfield restored and reprinted.
If you've got no other choice to save a pin than this, then okay, right?
Sure.
But pretty much every decent game now, someone's making a playfield for it.
Well, you say that. I mean, any Data East, and I know there aren't many people who are big fan of Data East games, but there are a few of them at least that people might go after, like Jurassic Park and that. You can't get the playfields from them because no one wants to manufacture them.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's definitely exceptions, right? But
yeah,
I mean, if your favorite game is some wacky game, and probably chances are, that might be your only answer. But to me, they just don't feel right at all. And everyone that I've played has had some installation-related issue.
It's normally around the cutouts. That's the biggest issue, right? It's the alignment.
Also gluing it down because
it can lift. Yeah, absolutely.
So Paul had a 8-ball deluxe that he put
incandescence can heat it up.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened. And it had like a mountain. It was kind of cool. We were playing the tournament league, and you had to kind of hit it over. I was like, Paul, I think you probably want to have a look at this, mate. And he was like, But it's a lot of work for not the best return in my view. You got to.
I'd say it's expensive time-wise, right, to put those on, but not material-wise because obviously they're quite cheap. But I think there are so many services you can use now where people will literally take a scan of the playfield for you. You can restore the artwork and then reprint straight onto wood and then and have it clear coated on.
And that's the thing. Half the effort, you've got to take everything off.
Yeah,
you have to take the undersign off. Well, you probably have to fiddle with it a bit. If you're going to do that, why not just go to whole hog? That's my take.
Well, I've done it twice now. It's worth doing.
I'm looking forward to Prince Bride. I think you're right, though. I'm not sure it's going to move the top.
It's not, when I say terrible, it's not like I'm just coining it like a phrase, right? If I say something's terrible, it's probably they're not that terrible, right? But I do feel like, from my perspective, I wish they would try and do something physical. I know it goes against their whole mantra, and they're like, "Hey, we're trying to do something different in the pinball scene," but I think they would have greater success if they just tried to be more traditional.
No, I completely agree. And what's kind of frustrating about it is, these guys have been around a long time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, first TPF I went to 2016, 2017. They were there then, and they've allowed other people to come into the regular pinball market where they should have been all over that, in my view.
It sounds like they've got the skill set, right? They can build the mechs, they've got the code, they've got the music.
They've really got the money as well, because there must be a shitload of investment in building all that.
Well, I don't know how many Weird Owls they sold, but I don't know if did they sell out on those?
I have no idea. I know, but they did sell a few of them. I know. I mean, so another friend of mine, Rob Byers, Top Rope Pinball on Twitch, he bought one because he thought that game was awesome. I mean, actually, Weird Al, I'd never heard of Weird Al until that game came out, and I went.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I watched him on YouTube, and it was kind of it was funny to watch some of the stuff he did. Some of the they were great
like
parodies.
White Nerd. I can't remember what it was called
Yeah,
now, but there was loads of parody music.
But just don't watch it anywhere where you can get fired.
Yeah.
Right, let's move on. So, look, at this stage we're gonna count in magically the TPF section, and so basically this will change. It'll look like we've professionally edited it. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening, it'll just be like, our voices changed just a little bit. So anyway, we were joined by Paul and Colin, and really appreciate him joining. Hopefully you enjoyed the chat. It was a great discussion. I felt like we could have talked all night, Scott.
Probably could have.
Yeah.
But as per usual, you promised it would be a short conversation. I think we hit well beyond that mark.
I'm going to stop promising timelines. The same with my wife. I'm going to be home from this tournament. What time? About 6, and I'll float in at 8. You said it'd be finished at 6. Yeah, I got it wrong. No, look, it was a great conversation. A kind of conversation that we should pick up at Pinfest. And actually, just a reminder about Pinfest: the hotel's sold out, but the tickets haven't. Big Phil put on a great show last year. We're all really looking forward to it. Of course, we've got TPF, but Pinfest, a kind of home show. Actually, I'm putting a call out. I need 3 backing singers for the karaoke. So if you're up for a bit of a laugh, you don't mind making a fool of yourself, and you can't sing, that's really important. No singers allowed.
I don't know about you, though. My voice is always giving out by the end of Pinfest because it's so loud in there. You're having to shout. Your voice is knackered by the end of the day.
And actually, my disco performance last year definitely suffered about that. So I'm gonna bring the old throat sweets and gargle a bit so I can I can hit those high Bee Gees notes. I couldn't hit them. Normally I can hit them, but I couldn't hit them. No, seriously, if you want to have a bit of a laugh, I'm up for a bit of a. I've got a karaoke idea that will go down like a house on fire. So let me know if you're up for that. As a couple of Pinball Republic guys volunteered, so I'm gonna. And by the way, you will be auditioned. You have to be suitably bad enough to qualify for this. Right. Here's the TPF section. We'll be back after the break.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'd just like to welcome you to our segment on the Texas Pinball Festival Barbecue Extravaganza, I think Neil wanted me to call it. We're joined here today by 2 guests. I'd like to introduce you to Cole, who is known also as Collie Wobbles, both on Pinside and on Pinball Info. Pretty notorious, I'd say, for his work in the plastic genre. He's a connoisseur, I would say, of any kind of plastic protector for your playfields. I'm also joined by Paul. Paul is known relatively, to be honest with you, for a lot of his recent mods, including a James Bond mod that I'm sure he'll be keen to talk about later on. But it's a specialized mod that you can add to your James Bond Pro, Premium, or LE, where you can add effectively James Bond being attacked by the laser. It's an infamous scene in one of the James Bond movies. Of course, we're joined here by Neil, I'm sure who needs no introduction.
Thanks, Scott. Look, first of all, guys, thanks for joining us. Look, this is kind of a last-minute brainchild or brain fart, depending on how this goes, from me, which was there's a bunch of us. So there's a few other folks going to Texas. Davey from Stumbler Mods is going. Ant's going. Dave Bishop's going. Mark Fitzsimmons is going, and Paul, I always forget his surname. Paul Crook, yeah, on the forum. So quite a bunch of us going to Texas, which is great because usually it's me. Actually, last year Davey was there, but usually it's me and Martin Abe, and probably Martin's going. Actually, I never even thought about Martin, but from Pinball News. So we just thought it'd be good to kind of get a view from the guys on, what are they expecting, and then afterwards we'll come back and do a kind of we'll take some kind of dubious photos of us in Texas, of course, probably with our mouths full of barbecue or beer or both.
Hopefully nothing too compromising.
Oh, well, hopefully it makes it more fun. Yeah. So like I say, we'll do a little bit about what's going on, and again, like we try not to be over organized on this. The podcast's a bit of fun for us. We're not trying to make any money or win awards on it. We're just trying to talk pinball and chew the fat, basically. So, with that in mind, Scott, why don't you lead us in with our guests? That after all these events, we finally got guests, which I'm still amazed.
I know, it's great. Look at that, we're expanding, everyone. Look at that. And not to top it all off, we've actually even got a working session going on. I dare say we might actually get some like audio issues later on, but I do apologize if we do. But
that's a good point. My audio sounds okay, doesn't it? Because it was bust on the last podcast. I don't know. But
yeah, it was incredibly echoey.
It sounded okay it sounded okay on the playback. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway. So yeah, I suppose why would you like me to do this, Neil? Do you want me to start off with Cole and we can do an interview based on
just pile in, guys.
Yeah, sure. So Cole, I've obviously alluded to the stuff you do. Now it's not just limited to what you do around the plastics. Do you want to just give people a kind of bit of insight of what kind of stuff you've done for the pinball community?
Well, I'll start off where I started in pinball, to be honest. In 91, I bought my first pin. Moving on from arcades, I got a bit bored when all the fighters come in, started on pins. Got my first one, which was a funhouse. I've had 10 of those. In fact, at one point, I had, I think, about 8 funhouses. So in the 90s, I collected about 34 pins. I had a garage full of them all tombstoned, and one at a time just brought them out and played them to death and moved them on. Generally, like yourself, fixed them up, done a little shop on them, moved them on, made a few bob. And over the years, as we know, inflation's just gone from strength to strength to strength. And the tide's now here, isn't it? It's turning, I think.
You mentioned like you've done them up and you shot them up. Is that when you started, would you say, adding in your own mods and putting in together your own protection, or did you come at a later date?
It was a later date, but I think I joined Pinfo in 2016. And then I thought it saw like bits and bobs filtering through. There wasn't a great deal of mods, not like we see the mods today.
Sure.
Which is crazy. And I actually started buying mods, and it was simply getting mods for me pins and thinking, Christ almighty, it was $60 from America and mad shipping, and it was a piece of really bad printed plastic. And I just started doing my own. I bought myself a laser. I've always been good at kind of drawing stuff up on computers. It's just been a hobby of mine. I started from there.
Where did you find that laser from, by the way? Because it's not exactly like your small sort of flatbed scanner.
It's a story in itself, actually, because when I bought it, I bought an A4 laser. Now, I was thinking I was going to get this little flatbed scanner come to the house. Yeah. and this thing turned up, and it was a meter by around about 80 centimeters. And I had to put it in my office, and I had to vent it out of the window. And all of a sudden, the whole house was like, oh my God, what have I done? It was a long learning curve. Took me quite the time.
It's like
kind of took off.
I've bought a new pinball machine and I've bought a new laser.
It's worse than that. Because I tapped up a friend who was working with Chinese lasers, and I went to see him, and he had all these burn marks on the door, and I was like, "What you been burned on the door?" He says, "All these things leak all over." These things were burning all the furniture around them, and I was like, my God, and they were so badly made. And I went overboard, and I spent a bit of money. You got a real good one. Yeah. And then that led on to the size problem of A4. So I bought myself a big one, and I can do near enough a meter.
So you've been scaling up as it's gone along, basically.
Yeah. But generally, you don't use that length. I think about 640 would have been good enough.
I think the longest I made you do was probably about half a meter, right, for the alien stuff. That was fairly long.
Yeah, I've just added to that as well. I've done very well off that alien stuff. Stateside's been really good from that video.
I was going to say, I was speaking to Ant about it, and because I know he's done some extra pieces with you now, and he was showing me some pictures of them. Yeah, anyone who's interested in who has a Pinball Brothers Alien machine, regardless of what edition it is, whether it's the LV, Ripley edition, or standard version, it will all work. It's definitely a good set to look at. So by all means, reach out to Collie Wobbles on Pinside if you're ever interested.
Yeah, off that video you've done, I've getting orders pretty much on a weekly basis. Or
I got a lot of traction on that video, actually. I think I hit like 1,800
crazy.
views in 1 week, which was quite good, if I'm honest, for something that, as you say, it's just seen. I think the difference is like, I don't know about you guys, but like I've noticed like Spooky and other vendors now have started adding in those sort of plastic protectors, and some of it's just based on aesthetics. They've realized that it just looks better to add an accent of a color around the plastic rather than just simply saying, here it is to protect it. I mean, like Alien, it definitely added light because it's good at diffusing the light and spreading the light, so that you ended up basically building more of the playfield up, because it's naturally quite a dark game. So yeah, don't think of it as just simply as a plastic protector.
I got into I mean, I used to think, why do you need them? But then I saw Matt Vince had this Attack from Mars with the green edge, you know, the clear green
luminescent green, yeah.
And the light just kind of pings its way out of the sides, and I thought, holy shit, that looks awesome. And you know, when again, a game like that, so the Williams one's very dark. I've got a remake. It's not quite as dark, but even on it, it looks phenomenal. So I'm a convert. I think the other, Colin, I mean, I kind of got into pinball 2016. I'd say that, I mean, I was buying a few mods, but one of the things I'd say, and Paul, it'd be good to get your take on this, because I've mentioned it to Dave, which is the mod community has gone from, I mean, I'm not trying to, I'm sure people did lots of great work. I'm not trying to kind of take away from that, but it just feels like mods have got to a new level of kind of manufacturing quality, and you know, and with that obviously cost. But you know, I mean, I remember playing a Jurassic Park where in a competition where some guy had bought, you know, those clear buckets of dinosaurs that you buy your kids.
No.
One of them, and stuck them all over the freaking play field. And I'm playing, and all of a sudden this freaking T-Rex, but it's been hot glued in, it bounces off. I'm like, what the? It cost me a match. I was human about it. But now, you know, Paul, I've got your Godzilla mod, which is like I mean, even the guys at Stern. So I was in Chicago and I mentioned them that Godzilla mod, and they're like, oh, you know, we're super impressed by that. And unfortunately, they're not allowed to actually put any mods in their games, or at least not admit that they've done it.
Really?
Yeah, which you can kind of understand why, right?
I've sent one. I won't say who it is, but definitely somebody at Stern has got one. I've got a rule that if anybody at Stern reaches out to me, they get one for free. That's the
okay, there we go.
That out there now.
That's it.
Oh, okay.
So, that's it. That you're going to get in a day. But I mean, genuinely though, the quality. Like I've just installed Davey's Area 51 mod, and apart from me wanting to shoot him for how complexly fiddly it was, it's when it's in, what a difference it makes. I mean,
that's the key thing, right? I think one thing that's changed in the mod community, at least because I've only joined obviously since 2019, really. So I think it was 2020 actually, but over those span of years, it's definitely, I would say, seen quite a radical jump of people just creating simple lighted mods, I would call it, to interactive mods.
I think that's the key. The interaction, the interactivity is what's changed. So I got in 2017. I was just looking at my profile actually on the UK forum to see when I actually got into it all. So 2017 was when I got in, and on the forums, Pinside and UK, I'm known as Jazz Boucher and Mojo Mods sort of thing. But so when I started, it was all, like you said, it was just like either trinkets, people gluing stuff in, or just static pieces of plastic that would slot over, or just hook up to a light, right? And you just get an LED that would light up, and that would be it. And my first machine was Star Trek Next Generation, and I just messed about with it, right? So it's a weird one. I got into pinball. It's really weird thinking back. I wanted a stand-up desk, and I was thinking to myself, what can I use as a stand-up desk that'll be cheap? Oh, pinball machine. Nobody wants pinball machines anymore. So I
Is that-
thought,
So you knew about pinballs before that, obviously, and you played them
but
as a
only
child, or
no history with them, no
okay,
sort of like no nostalgia or anything. My background is in toys actually anyway, so I love anything that's toy or game or play related. And so I was thinking like, well, a pinball machine would make a great stand-up desk. I could convert it. And I thought I'd go on Facebook and I'd find one for like 200 quid and it'd be cheaper than going to IKEA and all this. How wrong I was, right? Obviously. But you know what it's like. And you start sort of delving a bit deeper and scratching the surface. And suddenly you get a bit hooked and you start playing the online ones. And then so I got Star Trek and I loved it. But I started fiddling with replacing the Romulan ships. I bought three ships at a different size. And I put some LED strips in and I was just mucking about. And then I cut some plastics and I thought, oh, the future's in plastics. That's where the future is for mods, And then, I was right. But Cole,
I mean, another problem I have always noticed was the scaling. So some mods were really quite large and they didn't really fit within the world. Like sometimes you get someone sticking an action figure as an example in there that would be like, I don't know, 8 inches tall. And it's
I think that's really the balancing act of which mods work and which ones feel out of place and sort of stuck. Like if it stands out like a sore thumb, it's not working. And I think for me the turning point, because I was making, so my second machine was Indiana Jones, I think, and I made
Good choice.
I love it. It's I'm a huge indie fan as well anyway, so so I made some pop bumper caps, which I'm still making, actually shipping a few today, funnily enough.
Is that similar to like Stumblers, like Lollipop GI pop bumper caps?
Well, it should be now, but back when I made them, they were like we're talking about, they literally just plug on and they have the light from underneath. They don't do anything interactive, right? They're more like a sculpture, I'd say, that just amp up the design.
Yeah,
of the
just build more light, basically.
Yeah, and all of that, and I've really enjoyed making those, and I think they do add something to some of the earlier games. If I was to redo them now, I would build in Stumbler's kit, and I think that was a turning point for me. So Davey and the work he's done, maybe since, I mean, when was he on my radar? I was doing or I have been doing a topper for Indie, which is like based on the Arc design. And I remember reaching out to Dave because I'd started seeing his kits and I was thinking, I want some interactivity and lighting effects. And so we had a bit of a back and forth and I started seeing his kits and starting to just realize that they offer this level of interactivity, which I wasn't seeing in other mods. And then I think he dropped the Tokyo Neon sign, right, which was his first big one. And when that blew up, I realized that I think that was a changing point, I think, with mods, because that was the first mod that felt like it was part of the game, that interacted with the game like something that, was stock that had come with it.
It looked manufactured, right? From an actual proper, like full-blown manufacturer of pinball machines.
Yeah. The finish was good. The instruction, the kit, everything was you're used to just getting like, a sort of photocopied, very basic instructions if you were lucky. Suddenly you've got like really detailed instructions, really good support. If, he's always there on messages helping you get through it. If you've got any issues, he takes care of it, and I hadn't had that before anywhere.
I mean, you're right with the instruction set. Sometimes, I mean, like, I think, and if he was here, he'd be talking about his apron that he received from Pinball Brothers. I say from Pinball Brothers, let me specify, it's a mod for the Pinball Brothers Alien machine. And the instructions, it's like wonky cam, YouTube, and it's terrible. It's like, this is the thing I think I quite like when we're seeing like, mods from yourself and from Stumbler and from other people now, like Art of Pinball and that, is that the quality is stepped up.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing people going, well, that's what the standard should be now. You've set the precedent, let's maintain it.
Yeah, I mean, just on the Tokyo one, actually, if you Google for pictures of Godzilla now,
it comes up.
Hard to find a Godzilla without it. I mean, it's everyone I know. I was watching Carl D'Angelo stream Godzilla a couple of months ago, I think, and he's got it, and I've got it here, and it's just so well. It just adds like a little edge to the game that makes it stand out, and the other ones that go with it, I've got them on order. And I think, I mean, for me, I think the change happened around when Iron Maiden came out, because So the last big game, I would say, before Iron Maiden, and I'll probably get thousands of people declaring some other game, but the last big game, I think, was Ghostbusters. And Ghostbusters generated a lot of mods, but they tended to be, I'm going to say it, rubbish, frankly, most of them. You know, bits of gunk that glued onto various bits. And
I think when you look at like 3D printing, though, I think that's moved on, right?
Yeah.
In the last, God, even just the last year, I would say you've got people like Bamboo Labs, for instance. They're making their 3D printers now. I don't know if you guys have seen their 3D printing kind of quality that comes out from that now, but I think that's also helped. I would have wished, to be honest with you, if you look like Galactic Tank Force, they used 3D printing, I believe, for their tank model at the front. And it's got that obvious sign of 3D printing on it where it looks, how can I put it, not like finished. It's got that kind of stringy kind of look to it.
Yeah, it looks like it needs sanding down, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Even, I mean, that's the great thing about something like that. They're able to kind of, you know, that's part of the challenge. Paul, you probably know this, and Colin, you probably know this really well, but getting plastics done. So I moved jobs to work. I used to work for a telco, and I work for a manufacturer of stuff. And we've got this plastic trim that's got our logo and a couple of lights on it. Just getting that done, Jesus, how hard is it? It's like one of the longest poles in the tent. We're building ASIC semiconductors, but we can get that done quicker than we can get just a simple bit of plastic on the top. It's nuts. So it's kind of, in some ways, it's a blessing and a curse, because you can prototype stuff pretty quickly. But yeah, you want to get it. But I noticed a difference with Iron Maiden. Some of the mods that came out from Iron Maiden, like I got the Spitfire mod that kind of, again, it's not super interactive, but it's a little bit interactive. And I just think, I kind of feel that, again, Ghostbusters as well to some extent. But when Iron Maiden came out, it kind of felt like there was a bit of a step up, and, you know, it was a phenomenal game, even if the music's terrible. But, you know, it just felt like something that, actually, I'm not going to put anything that doesn't look great in this game, because it's such a great game. And you know, and actually David Fix we mentioned American Pinball. He's actually going to be at Pinfest in the UK this year, which is awesome. He's a great guy. I showed the 3D printer. I saw that they've got like a farm of 3D printers. I saw them when I was in Chicago. Phenomenal facility there. Actually, quite a well kept secret how big their facility is. But yeah, I just think, I mean, it's great. I mean, I've got in my hand a pair of 007 things that Colin knocked up for me for my speakers, and it's a simple little thing, but holy shit, it just makes the game much more noticeable when you put this on, you know, the overlays on speakers, a little bit of light on the background, and, you know, the simple things like that. And then there's the complex things like your Godzilla mod, like some of the other things that are out there, and it's phenomenal. But the thing I always said, and I kind of said this to the Stern guys when I was last with them, I was like, guys, you're leaving so much cash on the table. And many.
I was going to ask you guys that. What do you think then, when it comes to mods? Are they purposely leaving stuff out because they're trying to say, "Hey, modders, do your element"? Do you think that we're by having the modders getting higher, better quality stuff and seeing stuff like you know your stuff, Paul, and Davey's work around the Tokyo Neo and so, do you think they're going, well, actually we just leave those elements to the modders? Or do you think
I don't think so.
Sorry, Carl, go on.
I'm saying I don't think that at all.
Okay. No, I don't either. I think that you know, they've obviously got cost challenges and bomb and all the rest of it, and, you know, whatever profit margins they need to hit. I mean, that's always the designer's challenge, right? You've got the company, and they'll set all their goals and targets and financial constraints and all the rest of it, and the designer just has to work within those. So I don't think Keith Elwin is sitting there thinking, I'll do a bit of a rubbish Godzilla to let somebody else do a really good one. You know, they're doing the best they can, and I think, you know, a friend once told me that every company is good at a certain type of thing, right? So, you know, Stern are really good at rule sets. I think, at least, just my personal thing, I think their rules and the way the layouts as well with some of their designers are just superb. Some of the other companies, might be better at quality overall, things like that. I don't know. I just don't think I don't think the sculpture and the design elements, I'm not going to say it's not their forte, but I just don't think they always focus on it.
I just feel like there's a lot of like plastic cutouts where there could be a full three-dimensional sculpt, as an example.
Yeah.
I don't know, as you say, if that's a limitation of you say, design gap, as in skill set gap, or if it's just a bomb issue.
My take on that is so on the Pro, look, and
pros are different, right? I get you. Absolutely.
The Pro is 100% aimed at sticking it in a pub and getting the game absolutely hammered. That's what it's built for. So they want games that are easy to fix, easy to manage. Don't need, if you lose a chunk of plastic, okay, it's bad, but it's not the end of the world, right? And I just think, I mean, the mech that used to, the first kind of weird mech, well, not even a mech, but kind of sculpt, and it was probably nicked from somewhere, was, Deadpool's springy head that on the first batch, all the springs snapped. And everyone there's videos of people whacking Deadpool's head with the flippers. My sense is Stern just don't want shit like that. They're still very much focused that this is a game where you stick money in it and you make money by sticking money in it.
Right.
That's my take. The premium LE, slightly different, so they tune it up a little bit. But also the other thing not to forget though is if you make something that's like the IP of someone else, the effort you've got to do to get that approved by the IP holder can be.
Yeah, I kind of forget about that. You're right. Yeah.
JGP got a lot of shit for using cake stuff for what was it? The Toy Story 4. They were getting people went like they basically found the things that they needed. It was already made to stick on a cake, and they just thought, actually, we can just use that. And the advantage is it's already approved. It's already got the certificate of authentication as an approved thing, so you don't need to do it again. So, I mean, it's interesting, but I do think I think if you're Stern or you're JGP or and look at, I mean, I think the Pinball Brothers for sure, they're looking at some of the stuff that's coming out. The Art of Pinball guy, he's working with more of the players directly. So they're clearly looking at it and thinking, holy shit, this stuff's actually good. And it's...
Well, I was wondering that, because the Pinball Brothers have taken a kind of a different stance, right, to all the other manufacturers so far. This time around, they've partnered directly with a modder and said, hey, we'd like these as official accessories. Because I don't know about you, the way I define a mod is something made by like yourself, Paul, like by Cole. It's someone buy an external to the main company and it's added in afterwards. An accessory is something I think that comes from the manufacturer. So i.e. if they build a shooter rod and you add it in, that's an accessory. If you buy the topper, it's an accessory. So for me, looking at like what they did with Pinball Brothers and the alien sculpt and all the various other elements they've added in, I don't really perceive those as mods now. I see those as accessories, as upgrades. I'm wondering if Stern will ever approach a modder now, if they see what Pinball Brothers have done and say, we could do that.
During Ghostbusters, they did actually work with Measle mods for a little bit.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, you could buy on, I think it might even still be on the website, you could buy like some of the mods that Measle had done as kind of like a pack. And again, I think it goes back to Paul's point, which is, I think Stern realized that, they're just not geared up to build that sort of stuff. They struggle with toppers, which, the toppers that they put out are hardly the most complex things in the world, but they've even struggled with them. And I was talking to Tim Sexton, who's one of the coders at Stern, a really good guy. He was telling me about, how quick it was to get the game out for Black Knight, but the topper just took forever for them to get it pulled together, basically.
I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? These guys, they make pinball machines, and it's amazing. I mean, Stern, the speed with which they get them out to market and everything else is great. But toy companies make toys, and that alone, has it takes a year or two to get a good line of toys to market, and that's when you're dedicated to it, and you know what you're doing, and you have the factory contacts and everything else. But like you said, Neil, I think it also goes back to the licensing things, and I think when you work with a modder, then you've got to build in license approval and everything else, and you go through all of that, which is
super difficult.
It's complicated, yeah. And I think the only thing that I would say to that, which I think is weird, is just the Godzilla in Godzilla is just that isn't based on the films or anything, and it's
green for starters, which
it's based on the artwork. It's based on the fantastic artwork, but it's just not. And I really don't want to be disparaging on anybody's work, because obviously somebody has sculpted that, but it's not what I would have given the green light to.
Not what I would have envisaged for Godzilla, I must admit.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you could argue around the color. I suppose they were trying to make it more bright, colorful, but
that's
it's weird when the movie shows it in grey.
Yeah, and I like the artwork. Don't get me wrong. I love Zombie Yeti's artwork, and I actually don't mind the green. I'm not, I don't have a history with Godzilla, so I'm not like beholden to any color palette there. But I just mean the toy itself in the corner needs to represent that toy on the playfield. So it needs to look badass, like the artwork does, and that was a big opening for me, really. And I was actually, as Davey will tell you, it was probably a year or so after owning the machine that we were debating stuff, and I'd had it on my radar doing this Godzilla, and I just looked around and realized still nobody had got around to doing it. So it was a bit of
the obvious thing to do as well, really, wasn't it?
It was, in hindsight, and I think now everybody would jump on it. You just have to look at Jaws and see how much everybody is diving in.
I think
pun intended.
I wouldn't. The only thing I'd say, Paul, and I think this is credit to you, if you haven't seen the Godzilla mod that Paul's done, please take a look at it, because it goes back to your point about the right size, the right dimensions, the right fit in the machine, the right the bits the interactive bits that generate some value in the game, and that you just look at the danger of going for something like that is you kind of do something that's maybe a little bit better, but still not quite what it needs to be. And I think credit to you. I think you kind of nailed it on that. But there's still, I look at, it's kind of weird because I look at some games where, you look at the topper that they've put out from the remakes, and the top of them just absolutely outstanding. Sure. I look at you mentioned Star Trek with the ship, the detail level in that ship that it doesn't really do a lot, it moves a little bit, but it still looks great. So I think they can do it when it's a big set piece and it's part of the game. I think they do try to put a bit of effort in. If it's just
I think they are capable.
There,
yeah, they've definitely got some talent.
We should move on. Sorry.
Can I just end on this one thing about Godzilla? Where you hear on about Stern that they can do this and they can do that, but they brought out the topper and they put the same Godzilla.
Yeah, I know.
On the topper. That is quite embarrassing. And at the moment, mine's at Davies trying to get addressed, so he's going to put a little bit magic in it. If you notice at the right-hand side of that topper, there's no light on that building. I like the way the buildings light up, but on the right-hand side, it's just I gotta admit,
that topper it felt like a missed opportunity, but yeah, we won't delve on it.
It was a shit show.
It's turned into a mod podcast, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, which is fine because it's what people are into, and you guys are making some great stuff. Scott started to dabble in this as well. I mean, the only
for my sins.
I'm not.
I don't envy you guys doing it. Honestly, making that topper.
Can I just say one thing about the stuff I do? The stuff I do is nearly always community based. So someone will send us a text.
Yeah.
Can you do this airball ramp protector? Yes. Can you give us a rough sketch? Can you take a photo? I haven't got that pin. If I've got the pin, I'll do everything on it. Everything. Or someone will say, I've had this crazy idea. I says, I'll work with that. So a lot of my stuff is kind of designed by the community. And I design it on the laptop and I do prototypes and I send them back and forth. But it's the actual community. I do what they want.
Yeah, I can attest to that.
Just want, there's a lot of purists they'll say, I just want clear protectors. I want to keep it because there's a lot of RGB in the GI or whatever. But then you get the likes of Scott who say, right, Cole, can you do clear protectors? But can you etch every one with a circuit board on? And I'm like, oh my God.
I do love giving Cole hard work, but because I know you're capable of doing it, Cole.
But I think the other thing though, Colin, is you also fit a need where, like,
Yeah.
So I broke the plastic ramp thing on. Actually, I didn't break it. Someone broke it in the club on Avengers, and Stern didn't have any. So literally, you got this thing where you fire up the ramp and the ball just keeps going. But you're able to knock out. I sent you the broken part. You're able to knock out a couple and send them back to me.
Yeah.
And the game's up and running again. And this,
That's a really good point for like those of you who have like out of print plastics that are just not even available. Like you got maybe like an old EM and you're just like, look, I need something. Like Cole can take any old plastic and effectively like take a trace of it, make it better as well, thicker, stronger.
And,
So
A lot of people forget about one of the main ones is the clear sets, to stop ball hang-ups.
yeah.
On the old machines, they'll do a lot with the old machines and will put these old yellowed clear plastics on, honest, with just to replace them clear plastics.
Yeah.
And it's phenomenal how the pin looks.
All right, let's move on. Let's jump to Texas. So a couple of weeks' time, actually, it's a week earlier this year, Texas, which I think it'd be interesting to see what happens. So there's two big changes in Texas. One is a week earlier, so it kind of, there's a thing called spring break, which is usually around where Texas is. So it's a week earlier. So there's some folks I know, like, so Colin McAlpine, who usually runs a tournament, a big tournament player, he's not going to be there. They've got someone else running the tournament. And then also the people who run it, so there was 3 people who ran it, and 2 of them have retired and sold the kind of TPF business, if you could call it that, to a new organizer. So it's kind of, in some ways, I think there'll be some changes to the show and it'll be nice and fresh. But for me, this is a mecca of a show. And actually, until last year, just a bit of history, I don't ever recall them ever a game launch being at TPF. They used to always come either just before at Christmas or New Year, like we've just seen with Jaws, or it would be just after. And I'm trying to remember the last game that just came just after. I want to say.
after Jaws?
No. This was just. I'm trying to think of the last game.
So you're going to let me know what the next game is? That'd be great.
No, I wasn't going to let you know what the next game is. I think it wasn't Stranger Things. There was another game. Actually, it might have been Rush, where it didn't come out at TPF, but it came out. No, it wasn't Rush. It was something. And basically, Stern would usually do game launches, kind of MGC, which is closer to Chicago. But TPF didn't see a lot of game launches. Jersey Jack did a the Yellow Brick Road version of
Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz. Sorry, it's gone out my head. They launched that there, but then last year we had this kind of insane launch madness. I think 6 games launched.
Last year was a really good year to go. I wish I'd have been there for that.
This is the reason I was going. It was like, I missed last year. Let's just hope this year's is half as good.
And look, we've already seen one game. So Princess Bride, I mean, effectively TPF's going to be the first chance to play that. Just launched this week from
Multimorphic.
The P3 guys. Actually, Colin McCarthy, I just mentioned, he's done the rules on it. Looks exciting, although I have to say, I always think P3, it's like close to pinball, but not quite pinball.
It's kind of like a virtual cab mixed in with a physical, right? Isn't it? It's bridging the gap.
It's a lot of fun, but it doesn't. I never feel like it's something I've wanted to buy yet, and it's not cheap either. Nothing in pinball's cheap, right? But it's trying to get that game where it gets the kind of volume that Godzilla is. There's a very strong rumor that there'll be Twilight Zone.
Well, you're going to see a Prodetti game there for 100%. Yeah. You will see a Prodetti game there.
So that's 2 games we know of. Probably
after building a Twilight Zone, I mean, credit to him. I'm never building another one. I hate it. I'm done with this game. I honestly, I hate it so much. It's such a pain in the ass. So many goddamn parts. I don't even know how they're going to do it. Like the bill of materials in that game is insane. It's burying me in debt.
I think everyone's like wondering about the price, and and then I'm sure there'll be a couple other things. The other thing that's always great about TPF that I particularly like, and actually this is the thing, TPF. it's always been a bit more of a kind of community thing where, especially on the Friday night or Saturday night, where you've got the bars open, you've a few beers, you just wander around playing pinball with your buddies. It's such a great event for that, better than any other event in my mind, because there's lots of space, there's lots going on.
How long do they stay open then for the day?
So on the Friday, they usually stay open till 1. Actually, last year they stayed open till 2 because there's so many new games there. It's kind of weird. Word got out that there was lots of games going to be there, and then I think a lot of people just literally thought in the US that I'm getting on a plane because I want to see this game. I mean, the massive game last year was Pulp, and I still think the queues for that will be intense. And there was others as well. Godfather, Godfather was launched there.
Yeah.
That didn't do quite as well as I think they hoped. Although I actually thought it wasn't a bad game. But yeah, it's great, and and then of course Texas itself. It's kind of one of the richer states of the US, so it's a nice place to be. And they got great. I mean, the food there is all just insanely good. So kind of with that, Colin, give me, what are your hopes and wishes for the show? What are are you taking an empty suitcase to load it up with bits? What are the bits you buy in?
Well, a lot of the machines you mentioned last TBF, I haven't even played them. So just playing Pulp Fiction, playing Jaws, these games are Labyrinth, these are new games for me. So going over there, I'm going to experience them as well as anything that might be coming along. It'd be nice to see Progetti, how they've done their build quality. I'm really
how it holds up again. Yeah.
Sorry?
I was going to say, seeing how it holds up as well.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really looking forward to Spooky's new outings as well. I've got Scooby, I know Neil's not a big fan of Spooky, but
I like Spooky. They just I like the games. I just don't like the fact you have to spend forever making them work. But...
I've had Rick and Morty, I've had TNA, I've had little niggly things with them both, very slight, but I wouldn't say any more than I have with Stern games.
See, Rick and Morty and TNA, in my view, are Scott Danesi games that the guys at Spooky put together. Versus,
it feels like that, if I'm honest with you. Yeah,
the build design and thinking behind them, at least in my view. I mean,
the music as well.
Yeah, I mean,
really good.
We had Alice Cooper, and actually, Alice Cooper is what I have to say. It is one of, from a rules point of view and gameplay point of view, it's a phenomenal game. We had one at the club, but Jesus, man, the amount of effort we had to put into it to keep it going, and also you get weird things like. We ran the league there, obviously, and I'd be flipping, and all of a sudden, 40 million gets added to my score, and everyone's looking at me. How did you do that? I'm like, I've got no idea. And I'm pretty sure, at least on one of those occasions, it was some dodgy switch that was like oscillating, and I got something I shouldn't have got. But no one, this is the thing, we could never get the game to work reliably enough for long enough that we really understood how the rules went. But Bowen Kerins, like rules genius, who's done rules on Labyrinth, or at least part of them, along with.
Do you not think these boutique companies cater more for the home market, though?
Absolutely. There's no question about it. I mean, Kirk, who runs Till, they had a Scooby there, and Kirk was like, just the amount of effort. When you got people putting pound coins in it, and it doesn't work. That it's just especially.
I mean, the way it's priced as well, isn't it? You're never going to get a return on investment on a Labyrinth if it's going for like 10,000 plus in the US.
I mean, I actually am really looking forward to their latest game, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because my favorite game is Walking Dead, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre's got a real Walking Dead vibe to it. They've done some great streams of it, and it looks like a lot of fun.
I'd be interested to hear everyone's feedback on both Looney Tunes and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, actually, because I'd be interested in either of those games, if I'm honest.
Yeah. What else? So I mean, that's a really good point. It's insane how long it takes games to get to the UK, and people are buying Labyrinth and Scooby and other games, they've not even played them or had a chance to play them, which I find, you're laying down 10 grand for a game and you haven't played it. It's almost nuts, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, folks, Neil here, editing away. That's the end of part 1 of episode 9. Part 2 will be the next episode on your podcast downloader or on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in. And again, sorry we made this so long and so complex. It wasn't our intent, but we had a great conversation and we hope you enjoy it. Thanks for tuning in.